Wow, Edward, that was a lot of really exciting stuff that you just went over. Let me just go over this in no particular order, but there was EasyCarve, there was AI, there was version 13, there was the Advanced Machining module, and then on top of that, we've got Spark, which is our new Mac product. That's pretty, for a small team like this, that's a lot of stuff.
We are a small team. I think it's worth emphasising that, right? We are a relatively small team. So there's less than 30 something of us in Vectric right now, and so we really do. I think an amazing job, and it does come down to my colleagues, of course. That I always say that I get to claim the credit, but really, of course, it's all their work. But you're right. This year, even by Vectric standards, is a really unusual one, and I think some people have been saying on the comments and feedback that we're in a fast-moving period. Sometimes in technology things seem to slow a little bit. I mean, it's always fairly relentless, right? But sometimes there's slower periods where things stabilise, and sometimes things just take off. And right now we're in a kind of taking off period, it feels. But I'm really impressed and really proud of everyone for the way this has all been going. So yeah, thank you very much for that.
Yeah, it's really good.
It was quite exciting to be the front face of it all.
You've been holding that in for a long time.
That is also true.
Yeah, so
honestly, that is really true as well. So
good,
obviously there's some things in there which people can imagine are 2 to 3 years in the making.
Exactly,
actually. So that's, and in fact even longer. I think Adam and I were talking about the fact that some work that we did on looking at our cross-platform issues with Microsoft entanglements. Honestly, it goes back more like 15 years. So
wow, that's crazy. Yeah, jeez, wow, good stuff.
So yeah,
nice. So let's start off with, you had mentioned that in version 12 we had, or 12.5, we're starting to move a lot of our tools over to the 3D view, and it's working out really well, where we can actually, some tools work even, I'm going to say, better in the 3D view than they do in the 2D view.
100%. I mean, I think what you're seeing there is, for those people that I know we have a lot of quite technical people who are also our customers, right? So that people will be aware that you've got graphics card technology coming in now, which is almost more powerful than the main processor on your computer these days. And so what you need to be able to do to get really responsive tools is to offload stuff onto that graphics card. What we had was some older technology going back to like I said, these Microsoft days, which we've been gradually just sort of unpicking. But there's much more to it than that, because what we did back then, and the company's been around since 2005, is build tools that were really efficient and effective for the hardware of the day, right? So they have lots of tricks and things in them that were built for that hardware. And what we now need to do is look at the hardware of the day today.
That's right. Yeah. Things have changed.
There's a whole new load of tricks and things we need to do, right? So what we are trying not to do is just blindly port stuff across. What we're doing is taking each tool one at a time, stepping back, looking at actually how do people want to use this tool? What are the ways that people would like to interact with this? How can we preview it appropriately so that people can make a proper decision about whether this is the right setting? But also you need to have accuracy, right? And there are some situations which call for precision and some situations which are aesthetic. So what we hopefully you were seeing, and that the Spark demo where I showed you the offsetting tool is a great example. Sometimes I'm offsetting because I want to just make a nice boundary, right? And I'm looking for the point at which the offset kind of removes any internal islands, or I'm looking for a point which just gives me the right balance of the overall sign.
Yeah.
And other times I know it has to be 3/4 of an inch, it has to be 12 millimeters.
That's right, yeah.
And so you'll notice that there's also these little pop-up editable boxes that always come up in situ. So as you're interacting, you're also getting edit boxes, and you'll be aware of this in the 12.5 release anyway, when you're even just resizing. You can drag the handles, but you can also just tab around the boxes and bang in real precise values. And this is the sort of interface that we can introduce in all the other tools now, and that's what we're seeing. And there was a question specifically in the chat that followed my presentation this morning about, will we see the slick, slidey kind of offsetting that I just demonstrated in our Mac product? Will that be in the core Windows products too? And the answer to that is yes, right? So it's the simple answer to that. Wherever we're developing new interactive technology and it's appropriate and it's outside of any platform-specific constraints, then the joy of this is that we can utilize it in all the product ranges where it's appropriate.
Oh, so that's really good to hear. Really good to hear. Now, another thing that's kind of interesting is that you went on to version 13, but this is, you said it wasn't released until maybe next year sometime, and we're actually debuting it like unusually early for us.
Very much unusually early, right? And so, and part of this is because, as you can see, we're having a drive here to try and broaden the sheer number of people. We've always had a brilliant group of beta testers, and I want to take this opportunity as well to give a big shout out to all the people on our beta test group up until now. You guys have done a brilliant job. And there's nothing here that I'm saying is in any way to do with any shortcomings of our existing beta test group. But what we do have is specific hardware that needs to be tested, right? Or at least our software needs to be tested in the context of specific hardware. So we need people with an ARM Mac, and we need people with a drill bank on their machine, and we need people who've got a laser head of a particular manufacturer. And so you can see that we kind of, we just need to expand really. And as we're looking at people working in browser and they're using Chromebooks or what, and I mentioned, somebody asked about whether or not the Mac product would work on an iPad. And so for those of you who aren't really sort of into the technical details here, they are actually quite distinct things, the operating system on an iPad and the operating system on a MacBook laptop. But EasyCarve will operate on all of those, right? So if what you're looking for is an easy-to-use sign-making application, or you want to make a gift or something with a little bit of 3D modeling interest in it and some text that's completely bespoke and custom to you, as you can see in the EasyCarve demo, that does work, and that will run on an iPad. Okay, but yeah, we're going back to the original question. I mean, what we're really trying to achieve here with version 13 is to share some of the excitement with you very early. We appreciate that this is going to be months yet, but in the next few months, we will start to look at this beta test program. And that means we've got to gather people who've got the right hardware and get you involved in this thing. And then by the time we're ready to test, hopefully that will all be in place and we'll have a good communication platform and everything. So that's why we're doing it unusually.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah. So
please do bear that in mind, because what I showed you was very early, certainly interface-wise.
Yeah.
No offense to Hugh, our developer, but hopefully we'll put some more pixel polish on it before it goes out the door.
So you mentioned there will be a place where people can sign up for these beta testing things.
Yeah, so that's live as of this morning. Mm-hmm. So in fact, if I just cut across to this laptop here, I can show you in situ. This is just your normal V&Co account. So if you log into your V&Co account, as of this morning, you'll see a new little side switch here where you can sign up to become a beta tester. And if you click on that, there's a little form to fill in that tells you exactly those sort of things that I feel like we kind of need to know. So the sort of hardware that you have, details about the sort of work that you're doing, that's basically that sort of thing. And also, please be aware that we can't select everybody, right? So this will be a sort of careful selection process based on your answers to these questions. So we do appreciate that you're offering your help, but please don't be too disappointed if you don't all get selected this time around. But definitely, there's a few things we definitely could do with some things to get started, and one of those will be an invitation for early access to the AI product, right? And I need to be clear, this is still paid, right? So it's going to be a paid access, so because we want to test the token system and we want to test the payment systems. But what we are going to do is limit the numbers initially just to 100 or so. So again, if you sign up on the beta tester form here, then we'll contact people, and the first 100 or so that we get, we'll be rolling this out, and you guys will be the really early adopters and the first people to benefit from the AI system. But obviously accepting that we might have to tweak some parts of the workflow according to your feedback and your experiences of how it works.
Nice. Well, thank you for that. That's good. Yeah. So get your names in there if you're interested in any of these products.
Exactly.
The assembler. Let me tell you, when I first we're lucky enough here at Vectric that we get the chance to play around with the new software, the betas and so on, and that just blew my mind. That is really, really incredible. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. I mean, I must admit, I feel that this is a big one. So somebody was asking, because we obviously reviewed a lot of stuff in the last hour or so, and somebody's saying, yeah, well, what about the 13 stuff? Well, I want to emphasize again, this is just one of the features that's going into 13. I just picked it because it was a big one and it was at a position where we could demonstrate it. And I hope that everyone watching can think of a situation where they would like to use that tool, regardless of what sort of objects you're making. Everybody that I know, and certainly in Vectric, has got a situation where they think, I wish I'd had it for that.
Yeah, definitely.
And so there's that. The other question I was asked in the chat was, does it only work with the flat objects? Because we showed this fine piece of construction here that Becky made for our various shows that we've been at. And it's all obviously made from flat panel kind of construction. But the answer is it doesn't have to just be flat panel construction, because while there is a kind of, at the moment, you create your parts per sheet, right? So you think about your sheets as the part definitions, and then from each sheet you can put something into the assembly, and that something can be a preview or a simulation of toolpaths, so you can see all of the stuff to do with the fit, or it can actually be the raw modeling sort of environment before it's been through any toolpathing, right? And the reason for this we can see is important is it's horses for courses, right? There's situations. Is that a phrase that North Americans?
No, I don't think so. Not that I've heard of it.
So
no.
it depends on your requirements.
There we go.
I'm going to say, yeah. So it depends on your requirements. So some people are definitely, they're just in the process of checking the scale, the general sense, is this the right form and dimensions of what I'm after? And they don't want to go through the whole toolpathing process, right? So they just want to put these things together and make sure it's roughly what I feel aesthetically it should look like. But then there comes a point where you're going to put real toolpaths over it, and we know with slot together things in particular, you've got to take into account the tool dimensions. That means you're going to have to fillet some things. You've got to take into account the thickness of the material so it goes into the slots correctly. At this point, you're definitely going to have to go into the toolpathing side of things and be looking at the results of your toolpathing. And then, so what we're hoping is by the time you finished all this, even if you end up cutting, like I said, there's a sheet per part, but even if you end up cutting it with multiple parts nested out of a much, much bigger sheet, we're expecting you'll do that at the end. So once you're sure that everything works, then you'll nest all your parts and cut them. So that's the plan. It's not restricted to 2D flat objects only by any means. And I think I mentioned as well that you can even knock up something that's just an indicator of a real object, so that you can get the fit of the rest of your design around it.
Yeah, your Raspberry Pi example is perfect for that.
Yeah. So we're quite often making little containers. I was joking earlier on with one of the development team, because we always get the dev team to sort of have a go and build something when they first join. And almost everyone has got a box on their desk that they've made slightly too small for the object they intended to put in it, because we all failed to take into account the thickness of the material.
Exactly.
So we've all got that.
Yeah, one of the things that would have been, like, you pointed out this lovely arcade machine, which is fantastic, but I'm going to throw Rebecca under the bus for a second here, that if she had had the assembler when we cut this, she would have realized that there's 2 holes missing in it for the tabs that we had to cut off because it didn't fit together. So it's a perfect example of where she could have seen that and fixed it and not have had to worry about it later. So
and I think I mentioned in the talk, when we do these things, it typically isn't a small mistake.
No, definitely not.
It typically is completely a missing slot or a missing tab.
Exactly.
So hopefully this will be a really obvious and quick fix.
Yeah, definitely. And you brought up the idea that, or the question was whether it's just all flat stuff. Well, I actually took the free project, the Pi plate, which is a 3D component, double-sided with a base that was made with a molding toolpath and a pocket in the top, and literally could assemble it. So I could see the lid fit on. I could take a look at it as a whole thing, which is a huge game changer if you're making multi-part projects. It definitely is a big thing.
I think so.
Yeah, huge. Oh, and also, you didn't say much about the features of 13, but those savvy users out there would have noticed that you were showing sheets in the 3D view, which is really slick. That's really cool.
So in general, like I said, what we're seeing is that the 3D view is really maturing now into a general purpose view, but with much more extensive capabilities, and so you'll definitely see that in version 13.
Nice.
And we're already, I think most of us here who are getting the opportunity to use the the bleeding edge, let alone the leading edge. Most of us are struggling to go back to the 2D for some things now, so we've got it to the point where it is really difficult to give it up.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really good. Now, we had a question about upgrade pricing.
Yes.
And I know it's still down the road quite a ways, but is that going to work the same as it has in the past, or?
Yes. So the upgrade policies, we think and we hope they're really generous, right? They're kind of policies that we would like in a company if we had to deal with it, right? So we're very generous. If you're an existing customer and you've got old versions of the software, you're not forced to update, right? But when you do choose to update, there's a very generous discount. Now I don't want to sound evasive about what that amount is, but the thing is, it does vary according to what currency you're using and also what specifically your product is and what you're going from and to. And so the way we've solved that problem over the years is that there's a kind of calculator that's built into the portal where you can go and just check for yourself, right? So that's by far the easiest way to do it. Log into your V&Co account. On that main page, you'll see some options there, but you can choose any permutation that you think you're interested in, and it will tell you exactly how much the upgrade path is from a particular product to another product. Yeah.
That's a great way to do it for sure.
Yeah.
So next on your list that you hit was the advanced machining module, which is exciting. Again, it's a module that we can add into the software. We're not making you take it. If you need it, you go for it. So give us a little bit more about that.
Yes. So I think somebody said on the discussion as well, I'm a hobbyist user, so what's this to me? And the answer is nothing.
Nothing. Exactly. That's right.
It's not aimed at you, and that's just the way it is, right? So what we're trying to do is make sure, though, because it's not aimed at you, it doesn't interfere with all of the jobs that you are interested in and you are doing. And similarly, you don't have to pay for it, right? So the work that was gone into that, I mean, hopefully, even if you don't have a drill bank machine of large format drill bank machine, or you haven't seen drill banks in action, when you see that pneumatic processing going on, you can see there's a lot of work, right? So the work involved in getting these things functional is still the same as everything else. But what we're trying to do is avoid cluttering up the interface for those people that don't need it, and keeping it very focused for those people that do. And as I said in that talk, really, when you're watching me process cabinet design that's emerging from a third-party package in one click all the way through to toolpathing, you either do that and you know exactly what I'm talking about, in which case $349, you're realistically, you know in your heart of hearts you'll make back in a couple of jobs, if not the first job. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, then don't worry, it's not for you. That's fine.
Yeah. A lot like our laser module, same thing. You know, the laser.
Exactly. So we hope that is a reasonable compromise, right? And again, what we're planning to do is we've been gathering over literally years a number of these features which are too niche or too specialist to be putting in the core product, and we've kind of long fingered them and kept pushing them away. But now we have a place to put them. So what you'll see is this is just the first iteration of the advanced machining module, and as we move forward, this is the home of those really unusual, larger, more sophisticated, requiring more expensive hardware. I mean, the stuff we're talking about, just for those who aren't into this area of CNC, we're talking about machines that cost $100,000 and up. And so yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, when somebody asked for a student discount, I thought better start asking with the machine tool first, because that's where your real discount's going to have to come in. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I must say, I've been to trade shows and seen a drill bank work, but to actually see it visually, putting the 4 holes in a row, that's pretty impressive. That's really neat. You can see that right on the screen.
And as you can imagine, the math's behind it. It's quite complicated.
I bet. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you had mentioned a price for that?
$349.
Great. Okay.
That's what we're hoping for. Yeah.
Good.
So again, we've been following the roller coaster like everyone else of international monetary changes, but yeah, we're trying really hard to protect people from all that volatility and be good at holding our price points there.
Perfect. Now, Easy Carve was next, and that's really close to my heart because being from Design and Make World,
right?
I really think it's lots of great upgrades.
Yeah, in many ways, really, you should be talking about Easy Carve rather than me, because
well, I appreciate that.
This is your expertise.
Yeah, it is great. It's so nice to see some of the features that we've wanted to see in there, like adding text, multiple regions for different models, giving you the power to create a layout that just looks good. You really can't go too wrong with it. I think that's really nice. I can't, it's that kind of software that literally it's named because it is easy, and you get right off to the races with it.
Yeah, my slight twitch is that we almost make it look too easy. Yeah. So for those of you watching who have made, I'm sure everyone out there has taken a 3D object and just tried to carve on the base of a sign, say, right? It's a very obvious thing that everyone wants to do. And then when you cut it out, you don't want the piece flying off, and you don't necessarily want to stick it down with double-sided tape, so you want to put some tabs in. But then you want to rough it as well as... And so anyone who's actually had a go at those steps that I showed in a manual, conventional CAD-CAM package, you'll know there's a lot going on there. And what I demonstrated by just clicking through that is that we take care of an awful lot of stuff behind the scenes to ensure that carving is occurring at exactly the right Z depth. It's curving right into the material as you expect it naturally when you lay the design up. So yeah, but in some ways maybe the team's been almost too successful because it's almost so straightforward that you forget about all the steps that are tiny.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is kind of, it's kind of the point.
That's the whole idea, exactly. That's right. Yeah. I noticed that, and this is one of the things that when I'm playing around with Easy Carve and using it, that we do give you regions, but you don't have to use all 3 of them. In your example, you only use 2 out of the 3.
That's
you decided not to use one of the 3. So that's a nice sort of...
And so there's multiple layouts to choose from, and then within those layouts, you can pick and choose what you put in those areas, and then you of course have the entire catalogue to choose from as the source for those motifs and things. So you can imagine the permutations now. Oh, yeah. It's just the explosion of permutations for making a unique, genuinely unique sign. It's enormous. Plus text, plus customization, somebody's name. Yeah. We know that loads of people, quite honestly, are selling products pretty much built around the idea they just have someone's name on it. So now you can see that's all doable in Easy Carve.
Yeah, I love the way that you can take that one sign and you can literally change any number house, any house number on your street, and you can change the animals on it. So it's great. One thing that somebody did ask was the pricing for that. So off the top of my head, because I've asked, it's $150 a year for that, or $15 a month.
That's right.
Which is pretty decent price.
So if you buy the year up, you basically get a couple of months.
Exactly, that's right. That's 100%. Yeah,
and but it's important. This is the other thing that came up a lot in the chat earlier on, is about subscription generally. So I think this is a good opportunity to talk about that.
Go for it.
So Easy Carve is our subscription model because it makes sense. Because what you're really doing is buying into a big library, and also when you finish making your object, the toolpaths that you download are yours, right? They're just yours. And so if you decide to stop paying your subscription after a couple of years and you don't need it anymore, you don't really lose out on anything. And my worry has been in other products out there, other CAD/CAM products, who are using subscription as their sort of core payment mechanism. I basically agree with a lot of people on our discussion forum. This is, the question you have to ask yourself is, if I want to change products after a year or two, or this product's developing very slowly and I'm not seeing the changes that I want and it's getting out of date, what do I do about my files when I quit this product, right? And it's like you don't own your own files. And I feel that is always going to be a bad thing. So that's the basic starting point for us. So EasyCarve makes sense because you're getting a toolpath out the end. It's a completed process, right? And so you have the toolpath, it's yours, you've downloaded it. Right, so that's kind of what the deal is. And while you pay your subscription, you have access to all the library and all of the computing tools that go behind it. If you stop, you don't have access to the library, but you still have all your toolpaths.
That's right, yeah, that's good.
Whereas our core products, I just think we are still robustly sticking to the basic idea that this is a different world, right? When it's your designs that you're making, and our tools are about you making your own designs, we're not going to prevent you from ever accessing those, right? So you buy the stuff from us, you install it on a laptop. If that laptop never changes, so admittedly, Microsoft can still stuff us up and soon maybe Apple too. But if it doesn't get changed, we don't change. Everything is entirely yours. You've bought it. It's yours, right? And I still think we're going to stick with that model for the foreseeable future, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah.
Nice. And all of those new updates to, I think you mentioned this when you're talking about all the updates that have now included with EasyCarve, they are just included, right? There's no extra price.
That's right. I mean, that's the upside of a subscription model, of course, is that you don't pay for upgrades because you've got an ongoing subscription. Right, exactly, so as the product develops, you just inherit those benefits.
Right. So next is our AI that you've pointed out, which is pretty darn amazing, I must say.
So now we're getting into the big, really new announcements.
Exactly. That's right. Exactly. That's right. Yes. So talk a little bit about that, if you don't mind, especially the payment system, the credits, or the token system.
That's right.
How that's going to work?
Yeah. So the idea here is you're going to buy. You just purchase your credit. Somebody asked how this will work. On the interface itself, when you're logged into the web page, you'll have the opportunity just to make purchases of credits, and they just get added to your credit kind of tally at the top right. And we're going to charge $20 initially. We think this is a good sort of price point, really good price point. That $20 represents 200 tokens, which is enough to build, we think, models using the normal process for as little as 50 cents, for a model. And as you can see, the models are really spectacularly good. We do not require lots of faffing about like we're seeing with some of these other products. We got asked about Sculpt OK, which some people have been using, and of course we mentioned it, and Becky showed how you could use that a few months ago. So you'll almost, I'm sure you'll all be aware that means we were looking at that very closely, and so we know that what we've made is superior to every other one that we've tested against. Right. And that is because we built it right from the beginning as a CNC model production system, right? It's not about bending something else to close enough to our will, right? It's about starting afresh. And I can tell you that behind the scenes of that AI process is a lot of sophistication. It is not an off-the-shelf solution, and it's not a kind of just bolt together of image processing. It's very much thinking from first principles about three-dimensional low relief shapes and how to use AI to generate those correctly and those appropriately for CNC use as well at the end of that process. And so we're pretty confident now. Like I said, it is best in class right now. So we'll see how that goes.
We got some great examples that Nav actually
let's have a look. So
did for us.
Yeah, I think it's worth highlighting these. So Nav was just tasked, so Nav's our support engineer, and he was just tasked with, do you know what, do the minimum amount of work to get from our system onto a sample. And so this is kind of how he worked. So he had a deer. I think he told me his prompt now, and I've gone and forgotten it. But the prompt was something along the lines of just a deer drinking in a woodland scene.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And so you can see here, if I can hold this one so that you get a feel for the 3D shapes. I know the 3D shape's quite hard to see, but it's got reflection of the deer in the lake. It's been cut with a 1/8. Yes, presumably. And that is deliberately minimally interfered with. So that's pretty much straight off the system and straight cuts with no editing in the process. Nav was also asked to think about things that are more architectural or abstract in some way, and so he did some like a ceiling rose or something equivalent. Again, because we wanted to test that we were doing the different types of shapes really well. We've also done some portraiture. So we feel like we have tested the process pretty well across a broad range of shapes. And people are asking us about their own image uploads. Okay, so there's a whole extra path through which I didn't demonstrate, but when we make this available, you'll be able to upload your own images. And there's a slightly interesting thing there, which I think I mentioned, but it's a little bit difficult to explain without you actually having a go at it. So when we're ready, we'll probably demo this more clearly. But essentially, you can ask the AI either to use the image absolutely directly, in which case you'll probably get some photographic related artifacts and things like that typically. Or you can say, almost instead of using a text prompt, use this image as like a prompt of what it is I'm trying to make. And the AI will go away and make a very, very accurate model based on the image. So it's not directly converting the image, it's just sort of basing it. It's kind of like using the image as a prompt instead of a text 100%, prompt.
That's right, yeah.
And that produces then a much better output. When I was doing my demo, you could probably see that the images already look a little bit like they're photographs of sculptures. Right?
That's
And
right,
that, again, is because there's loads of upfront processing before we get into the 3D model side of it, where we're ensuring that we're making sculptural shapes from the get-go. And I didn't have to add any weird decorative words or long sentences or paragraphs to
Exactly,
frame the question.
yeah. I put in a picture of my old dog, and literally when I enhanced it, it was machine ready. You could see it did a great job with the fur and everything. It looked just perfect. Even the mat that he was laying on was just, it was like I was in my old home. It was so good. But yet, what's great about it is that it was machinable from there, which was nice.
Right.
And that's what's really good about what we're doing.
I've got one more thing about that as well.
Go for it.
Time. So on the questions, we got asked about the file formats that we can output from this system. And so at the moment, we're going with two file formats, really. One is basically Vectric's best quality file format, which is the V3M, and that's the one we know we have. It's a kind of nice, it's a custom, obviously built file format that is the best mix of file size and quality and accuracy. And crucially, for those of you on VCarve Pro or VCarve Desktop, this is also the file format from Vectric, and you can bring in as many of these as you like. Right? So you're not limited in VCarve, provided you're using V3M files. You've always been able to use as many of these as you like. We also had some slightly cheeky questions from two people on the forum, both referring to third-party other CAD/CAM packages that are offering an AI service. One of them was upset because they couldn't get the AI service in the particular payment scheme that they were using, and so they were just frozen out, as they put it, frozen out of it. And the other person was really objecting to the fact that they didn't like that particular scheme because they were getting some not necessarily getting the best value they felt from the credits. So the first thing I'm going to say is, using other people's software, Todd.
I don't know.
Just take a little moment there. But if we get over that, we can say that we're also going to offer basically the third-party output file format, which for us is called the TIFF file, but it's a special high density kind of data TIFF file, TIFF file, which is the same sort of one they use for satellite data or for laser grayscales and things like that. So it's a 16-bit file format, so it gives high quality. So even if you're unhappy and for some strange reason you're using somebody else's CAD/CAM software,
don't know why.
You should still be able to use the AI service. All right.
Yeah.
So
exactly, yeah.
That's great. We're definitely not freezing anyone out.
No, definitely nobody at all. No, that's right. Now for the big reveal that you did at the end, which I had.
What was that again? I forgot.
Anyway, it's our
Spark for the Mac.
Exactly, that's right. We're dipping our toes into this Mac world, which is exciting and yet a little bit scary. But yet I had goosebumps when you showed it off. It's great. I'm excited about this.
Yeah, I think it's a lovely opportunity as well for us to be able to start afresh at a kind of entry-level product. But I want as well to be clear about what it is, and more importantly, what it isn't as well, for those of you who are existing customers. It's a very entry-level feature set. So we're keeping it. What we've done is we've started from the position, if you're brand new to a CNC machine, what tools do you really want? I mean, what is it you actually want? And then we kept it very minimally to that. And so what we're allowing is cutout, profiling, V-carving, and then the laser heads. So if you've got a hybrid laser machine, laser etch and a picture right? Yeah. And that's it really. But we think that is the taster that is going to get people into CNC when they first get started. This is the thing that will allow them to produce that first set of things, and the first time you see your design emerge in reality out of real materials. It's a delight, isn't it? So it's very much kept simple, and that means we've been able to strip away an awful lot of complexity, but it also means that it's not capable even really of the feature level of, say, Cut 2D or Cut 2D Pro, right? So it's a mixture, so it's got V-carving in it a bit, but then it's missing a whole load of other stuff. So don't worry, if you're a higher end CNC user, and you're using it under Parallels, that really still is the best solution, right, for any more powerful or sophisticated CNC user. And we appreciate there's an overhead for Parallels and Windows, but we also understand that mostly once you get into a commercial world, realistically, certainly we're using Macs all in the office here as well. At least half a dozen of us use Macs. You got to have Parallels really for all the other commercial stuff as well. So we know you're amortizing that extra cost in other projects probably. But for the entry-level person who's just starting out and only spending a couple of $100s on a CNC machine, obviously that extra cost was prohibitive, and so that's what we've aimed this product at.
You also showed off V-Transfer, which we don't talk about a whole lot, but maybe you can give us a little bit more.
And I think that is very interesting in the longer run as well. So it's important to us that we make a solution that's complete. So it needs to be able to get all the way from the design right the way through to making your machine tool run. So it was important to us that we could stream the tool paths that we generate off onto the machine. But it's also got the dev team quite excited about how they could better integrate V-Transfer into the product. So over the next few months, I think you'll see as well some exciting improvements there. But the initial process, we're still going to give you a complete solution. That's very important. But when somebody buys this package, they can do the whole thing from start to finish, and we've given them all the tools they need for them to go out to get third-party downloads and weird kind of extra bits that they're not expecting.
Another thing I noticed too is you mentioned a cutout toolpath, and I thought that was kind of a nice. Yeah, you can go ahead and explain why that we've broken that out.
Yeah, so that's a good example of looking fresh, right?
Yeah.
So it's almost a joke in Vectric that the profile toolpath, which you would imagine to be the simplest toolpath, where you take a vector and drive the tool along it, has become one of the most complicated forms we have because it's used in so many situations.
And
one of those situations is cutting the shape out, which brings along a load of extra bits to do with cutting the shape out, like we talked about tabs earlier on, and we talk about how you might want to sort of bring the tool in gently from the edge and do lead-ins and ramping into this. But it's pretty specific to cutting out, and actually you don't use it when you're just engraving the surface of a material. So for EasyCuff to make it, for Spark to make it easy, we've split those concepts out. So the cutout is literally just the things relating to cutting something out. And then there is a profiling, but that's intended for when you're just actually carving something on a surface, which is a slightly different process with different options.
Yeah, one other thing that you had mentioned is that the offsetting that you showed off, which was really slick, by the way that you can sort of organically pull it out.
And that's down to Gosha, one of our very talented developers there. She's done a really good job on that. Yeah,
so it's nice to see those. And that technology or those tools will trickle down, hopefully, into our core products.
Yeah, not just trickle down. I mean, they're kind of. I didn't have a chance to show all of the V13 stuff, but there's a lot of things that are already in V13, quite honestly. And so, where I was talking about this being cross kind of usage technology, so everything that you're seeing really that's directly in that our view now, this kind of CAD/CAM view that's becoming the general CAD/CAM view that has all the power in it. That is all almost intrinsically cross.
That's exciting.
Cross-platform. So those things, don't worry if you're on the Windows core product run towards 13, you're getting a lot of extra stuff coming out of this as well, don't worry.
13 is going to be big, it's going to be really, really big. And so just one more thing I just want to bring up again about the idea that we want people to start to sign up for the beta programs for all of these different new pieces of software. It's important because we want to help you guys, to help us form these into what you guys need. So definitely head over to your V&Co account and log in and sign up for them if you want to get involved in that.
Absolutely, and we hope to see you on one of our beta programs sometime soon.
That would be great, really good. So I think that's good, but we're going to take your dinosaur, Rebecca and I are going to take your dinosaur and also that plaque, and we're going to cut it during our next presentation. So we'll actually be able to see the exact results of that you showed. So that'll be kind of fun to see.
Great. Well, hopefully I'll get invited back to showing off. And
Maybe,
keep the questions coming, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So
That's
I've tried to pick up as many of the questions I could out of the thread. Hopefully I've covered a lot of those issues. But if more questions come up, the joy of the live bits, live sessions we've got is we can react to those, and I'll come back on and answer more questions if needed.
That sounds perfect. That sounds good. So coming up next, we've got 3 back-to-back sessions, which is going to be great. So please stick around. We have David from our support team who's going to go through using the box gadget to create some storage for your shop. He's also going to use the keyhole gadget, which I've never actually personally used before, so it's kind of nice to see it in action, especially the way that he uses it. We've got Kyle Eli from Learn Your CNC. He's going to show us how to use your rotary to actually cut a mallet in 2 different forms, one in VCarve Pro and also one in Aspire. And even if you don't, like I've said before, even if you don't have a rotary, definitely tune in for this one. He touches on some tools that you might want to try on your own for other projects. And at 4 o'clock, Rebecca and I are going to go through the first part of our sign making presentations, because there's going to be 2 of them. The first one we're going to go ahead and design it, and the second one we're going to tool it up and cut it and show you how that looks in the end. We're pretty excited about that because it turned out pretty good, must say ourselves. I know. Anyway, so all that aside, that's great. So remember, as Edward said, please keep submitting your questions because we'll get to those as we go. We've got lots of people in the chat from Vectric. Of course, we have Edward on hand here to answer any of the real complicated ones. And we also have our presenters there as well to do that. So when we get back at 5, we're going to have David here with me and Rebecca to chat with him about his projects. So until then, again, keep in the chat, keep things going, and we'll see you back at 2 o'clock with David.
Great.
Right on.
And thanks for joining us.